Alright, so I have with me the Prisma Lumen. This is an IEM from an Australian company. This is one of their new flagships. It costs about $1,000. It's a 1DD 4BA IEM and it's coming out in 2026 as they finish up production. What I like about this IEM, as you can see, is that it has this really nice sort of monotone green color shell, and it's also a very small shell, so it's very reasonable in size. You can sort of see the nozzle, it looks kind of like that. And then there's a vent on the side over here. Inside my ear, the compactness is really nice in terms of fit. Unfortunately, I find that it feels a little bit loose for some reason. I do have to do a little bit of tip rolling to find a tip that makes it work and feels stable inside my ear. So you may have to do the same if you pick up this IEM. In terms of sound then, I would say this IEM is very much a sort of new meta style IEM where it is kind of downwards slope. There is a little bit more bass than treble. It's one of those IEMs where I would say tonally it doesn't do anything wrong, but it's not also super interesting either. So for the bass then, I would say it has quite a bit of mid bass, lower mids presence, more so than I expected. It just feels a little bit meaty there, which is nice. However, I would say that for me, the sub bass is a little bit lacking. I do find there is a bit of a lack of texture. I think what it really lacks is it lacks explosiveness. It lacks that deep impact. It does feel a little bit one-noted. It can feel a little bit undefined in the bass. So from that perspective, not the biggest fan of its bass response, even though there is good elevation and presence. In the mid-range, very little to complain about. It's a good mid-range. However, I would say that, like the bass, instead of lacking explosiveness, I think it lacks bite. You know, when I listen to the snares, I listen to the electric guitar, I want, something with a bit of bite, a bit of aggression, a bit of energy to it, right? And this IEM doesn't really have that. It's a bit more of a relaxed sounding IEM. It's just a little bit held back overall. And that, I think, goes with the treble as well. So when you hear the hats and cymbals, you do hear a glimpse of that crispness, that sharpness, those transient energies. But I do find that it's kind of very quickly compressed after that glimpse. So in that sense, it does make this overall IEM very treble tame, very treble safe. But for me, I personally want a bit more vibrance, a bit more vividity to my IEMs. And not to say that all IEMs have to be V-shaped or super bright, but I just think that the implementation here might be a little too tame for me personally. In terms of soundstage, imaging, resolution, that sort of thing, I think it resolves fine enough, I guess. The soundstage isn't super wide, but within the stage, the imaging is actually pretty good. So I'll give props to it from that perspective. So overall then, I think this IEM is not too bad. It's fine, it's $1,000, but I do think that, if you're looking for something really interesting, this isn't really it. This is an IEM that you get if you want to sort of play it safe.